Hey folks, welcome back. Today we're going to be doing a revisit of the good old WE XM177. Just for short, I might just call it the XM, or sometimes I might slip and even call it the AR-15 by accident. I got some negative press about that last time by mistake, so I'll try to keep that straight from now on. Anyway, well, it's been I've had this gun for about 2 years so far, and I've put through roughly about 5,000 rounds. It's hard to really get a good estimate of these because, you kind of lose track, but you know what? I probably fire a lot more than I think because when these are on full auto and you got larger magazine capacity than your pistols, you tend to go through a lot more than you think. Especially when you keep buying more and more bags of BBs. So, where does it stand now? When you first get a gun, you do a brief review of how you think it performs and, the basic looks of it and everything like that. Whoops. That was the bolt slamming forward, I think. Yeah. So, but now that we've had real performance, what do I think of this gun? Well, let's point out some of the goods and some of the bads real quick. The good thing, well, parts are readily available for this gun. I don't think you can get a whole lot of... This gun's a little bit harder to find now, I think. I've noticed they're often discontinued or sold out of stock. But in some ways you can kind of just replicate this and order WE parts and put them together. The only thing that might be difficult is to find is like the hand guards. These are the slimmer XM177 version that's unique to this model. The WE M4s, they have like kind of that fatter hand guard. So if you hold this grip hand guard for quite some time, you get used to it, and then you pick up an M4, you're gonna notice like, wow, that was a lot fatter and it feels a little bit more difficult to hold. This flash hider here, this is also a unique feature of the XM177. To be specific, I did some research to make sure I'm getting correct information here, but this is the XM177E2 model. So this has the lug right here for mounting grenade launchers, whereas you might see some other XMs out there by WE where this part here is missing and the barrel is just attached, or the flash hider is attached to here. That's the older version, both in the Airsoft model and in reality too. In the real steel history, that's actually the XM177E1, but after modifications they extended the barrel a little bit, and that's how you get this one, the E2 version. A lot of folks complain that there isn't supposed to be this prong right here for bayonet lug mount, so some folks sand it off. The other thing to complain about is the position of the stock. It's only supposed to be a 2-position all the way in or all the way out on the real one. But of course, WE is kind of lazy. They just kind of reuse their same stock, and so you have like a 4-position stock. So second position right here, third position, and then all the way out is the 4th position. But I actually am a huge fan of the old school stock right here. Again, these are a little bit harder to find because most of them are the LE stocks where they're slanted or a different type of stock. So I personally like these old school looks here. Good quality plastic here. As you'll notice, the receiver is considerably shinier and looks like it's almost aluminum colored. That's because I sanded it down. I might have overdid the sanding job on this because I really wanted to get that worn vintage look, but I think I might have overdid it with the sandpaper. So if you wanted that look, maybe use a lighter green sandpaper, or maybe like the lowest grade steel wool, because I use some heavy duty sandpaper to file these down. Not as bad as this one right here. I use some heavy sandpaper here, and you'll notice that it's basically all shiny. You want to retain some of the black paint so it looks a little bit like it's more worn rather than sand down. Anyway, some of the good stuff though, it shoots really hard. It's about 400 FPS at its top when you're under a fresh magazine. regardless whether it's the 30-round magazine here that you buy extra or the standard 20-round magazine that comes with it. There are some differences between these two magazines, like I made a video before, but you can see those videos at a different time. Anyway, the magazine that it came with, by the way, is probably, this one is a little bit better, I think, in my opinion, than the version 2 gas blowback magazine right here. And there's actually a way you can tell whether it's version 1 or version 2 by just opening the bottom and seeing there's a screw down there. But there's a video out there for that too. Anyway, I think for the most part, you know, with any gas blowback guns, you're gonna have some leaking issues. So these magazines, I have noticed, I don't know, they tend to leak quite a bit. They're easily fixable again with some more silicone oil and stuff like that. But again, I think that just comes with the territory. I don't think that's just inherent to the WE models. And that goes for this one right here too. But I have noticed that the 30-round magazines, they tend to leak a little bit more. And we're talking about leaking on the top too, right here, where you can just hear this fizzing sound all through the night. But putting in some silicone oil and letting it sit in there for a while, for a day or two, seems to fix it. Looks wise, again, I love the look of these XM177 series, so that's why I got this one. But as far as parts compatibility goes, you can buy WE parts for the WE-M4 parts and stick it into the system here. Bolt catch, not so great on this model. After some use, it just is not very reliable. It just does not like to lock back on a last round. So here's an empty magazine, for example, that's fully gassed, and if you fire it, let me see here, watch this, you won't see it locked back. See, nothing. Now, you might say, oh, well, maybe it's a weather thing, it's still cold. Even if you pull the charging handle back slowly and try to release it forward, sometimes it locks forward, see, but sometimes it falls flat on its face. Unless you hold down the bolt catch and hold it down that way, it's hard to get it to close, to lock back all the time reliably. Sometimes when you're firing it will lock back, but sometimes when it's out, but not always. It's a very unreliable lockback system from what I can tell and with my experience. This magazine here doesn't even lock back. I think the spring that pushes the bolt stop up right here is a little bit weak. And again, I have the same issue. So, for example, if I try to pull the bolt back, it just refuses to lock back unless I again hold that down. Which is not, you know, it's not going to be operationally realistic in the sense that when you're firing in a game, you know, you expect that to lock back. So oftentimes you find yourself dry firing a lot of these guns. So that's not cool. And this is after, in fact, after I had replaced the bolt right here. So if you'll notice right here, oops. Where is it? There we go. I've replaced this bolt already with a brand new one right here. As you can see right here, it's not as worn out. This part right here will wear out very quickly though. I want to say after about 200 times of actuating this bolt stop, it will eventually get worn out. I guess it depends on how you like to release the bolt. Oftentimes I like to smack it with this, release it with this bolt stop, and that's not as good as, say, cycling it with the charging handle here. But again, the good news though is you can always get parts for this bolt right here, so it's never an issue. That's one thing that's good about this platform. Parts are readily available. If you'll notice here, it's kind of funny. There's it's being held here by some staples actually. And the reason being is that actually, despite it being a WE, when I bought this, the old retaining pin here didn't work. It didn't fit in there for some weird reason. And I had to like pound this to get it in on top. But this pin here is supposed to hold the bolt face right here, or really the nozzle, so it can slide back in there. But because it didn't work, I'm using 2 staples, and they're basically bent at an angle. So inside this bolt, it's like 2 staples, and I'm kind of bending like this, and then I'm bending the outer staples like this, so it doesn't like fall out of the bolt. And it's been working fine, actually. It still cycles, it still fires reliably. So if you ever have that issue, that's a quick fix right there. I know, super ghetto, but whatever, you know, it works. Anyway, again, parts are readily available. The other thing that's kind of a downer on this gun, by the way, is that right here you'll notice the dust cover. It just doesn't want to stay in. Now, when the bolt's back, or in this case removed, it will close and it'll stay closed. But oftentimes the spring tension in there gets pretty loose. And especially when there's a bolt in there, it will just tend to fly open, and it won't stay closed basically. So let me put the bolt back in there. So I've had to tighten the screw down there to keep it tight, and I can make it stay there oftentimes, but it is often even like the slightest movement can knock it open. So. But again, most of the time, that can be really fixed with just tightening the screw again in there. But something to think about. Also, you'll notice here, right here, that it's kind of looks like it's falling off, right? After a while, this part just looks like it's gonna drop out, right? Fortunately, so when it's open, it's kind of resting on the side, so it won't fall out on you. But be advised that after a couple thousand rounds, it will start getting loose right there. So don't worry, you won't lose it though, fortunately. And even if it's closed, the tension will keep it from falling off right there. But that's just kind of an annoying feature right there, unfortunately. Or they didn't put too much time and effort into putting that together, unfortunately. Anyway, another problem I've been noticing, though, 2 more actually, the select fire function. So I like to fire the M4 series basically in semi-auto most of the time, and I like to shoot my MP5s in bursts. Unfortunately, when I keep this in semi-auto, when I fire it, let's see if I can demonstrate it actually. So what happens is that a couple shots will go as semi-auto as predicted, but then a couple shots will just automatically slip into burst mode for some reason. So let's see if I can show you, because it happens pretty dang frequently. So watch this. Put it in a magazine, all right? It's on semi-auto, right? Let's see if we show you this. Semi. Just when I want it to happen, it doesn't happen. Hold on, let's try the other magazine. You know, maybe because it's I'm dry firing, there's a little difference there. Let me try to put some rounds in there real quick. All right, now we're back. So this is a full magazine with BBs in it now, and let's see if we can get that to happen again. See what I mean? That's multiple bursts right there. Well, I'm out of gas at this point. But for some reason, when there are rounds in there and you're trying to shoot semi-auto, a couple times it'll say single, but then every now and then it'll switch over to shooting burst by mistake. So it's kind of annoying to have that. I think it's an easy fix if you just buy a gearbox or a new trigger pack to replace it from WE. But since it's not really like completely broken per se, it's just kind of a minor issue, I'm not going to really change it. But I just know that there are replacement options out there if you wanted to, which is again another feature of this gun. The other thing I've also noticed is that the BBs are kind of falling out of the barrel often, and I don't know if it's because of the size of the BB. These appear to be standard 6mm BBs in there, but I've just have been noticing that every now and then I cycle around into the chamber, and then it'll just come rolling out of the tip right there. Not always, but occasionally. I might have to adjust the hop up. I've noticed sometimes that helps retain it a little bit, but these are just minor issues, but they are kind of annoying to have on this gun. Other than that, I think those are the biggest issues. Oop, the bolt's kind of stuck forward, so let me show you the forward assist in action. Uh-oh, something's stuck. There. Oh, that was a BB. Oh, that reminds me, by the way. So, the bolt face right there does tend to crack after a while because it's constantly being cycled and slamming into the grooves in there and the locking bolts. So what happens is that when you fire it, once the bolt face right here starts cracking, those grooves kind of get misaligned a little bit. And this happens especially when you're firing on full auto frequently. I'll show you folks some pictures in a second where basically a round gets stripped off the magazine and it gets jammed into the grooves in there. And this bolt hits it so hard that it smashes it. And because there's a BB smashed into the grooves in here, the bolt can't fully seat forward. And the gun basically jams because of that. And it is a pain in the butt to basically have to pry open this gun and then pry out the pick out the rounds, that's the BBs that's jammed in there. And if you replace the bolt and it's new again, it doesn't happen anymore. But again, just know that if the bolt face right here, if it starts cracking, you have to get a new plastic. I keep saying bolt face, but it's basically the nozzle. It imitates the bolt face on the real gun, but it's really the nozzle. If that part starts cracking, make sure you get a replacement, because like I said, it is not fun picking those out. And mostly it's full auto, but it does happen pretty frequently. As far as like jamming goes, I have noticed though that these guns from WE, I just think they're better at making, they should try to make improvements on these models because they are really good at making Glocks. I think have a lot of their Glock series. They work really well. They basically have never really jammed on me, and they never really have issues. This, however, oh man, the parts wear down a lot quicker, and there's a lot more jamming issues associated with it. But overall, you get, it comes with the territory with gas blowbacks. For a price of around like $200, I think I got it on sale. I think it's probably worth it, I would say. But just know that you're gonna be spending probably about $100, maybe $200 later down the road to fix the parts, upgrade parts, or other things of that nature. I specifically wanted this model because I wanted the looks of this model. But to go WE, maybe there are different brands out there. This is kind of a so-so. But that's my assessment of it now. It's still going fine. I think it's still working after 2 years, so that's got it going for it right now. But yeah, I think those are the main things I want to share with you folks after having this gun for about 2 years and just going through the motions with this piece right here. So I hope you found it fairly useful, and I'll let you know if there are any new updates, and let me know if there are any other questions that you might have about this and how it performs and stuff like that, or any other things that I didn't really cover that you kind of are wondering, ooh, does this part break or does this part wear down over time or something like that. Thanks a lot, folks, and see y'all next time.